said when I said to you, what does vision mean to you? You said you dream about owning a 911. That's great. This is a great goal. So I think you actually misunderstand vision. So you're dealing with fear of failure and not being able to launch, and you're in these trades and you exit them too quick, or you don't trust your TA. And so I said to you, I said, well, what about vision? What does that mean to you? Because you've taken my mental analysis evolved, and then again you went back and you talked about a car. So this is really great because actually you don't understand what vision really means then, which is kind of good because this means we have something that we can work on. So when we talk about vision in trading and day trading, vision isn't vision isn't sitting there and saying what are my goals in life, right? These are goals. These are very, very different than what you would look to get from somebody when you say, oh, like, what do you think of when you hear vision? And I'm going to share my screen here for a second. I'm going to show you something. I think this is going to be a really big helping point for you. So when we talk about vision, it's not a life balancer. It's not something that we look at as an external factor. Rather, it's internal to trading. So when we say the word vision, it's what are the outcomes? So fear of failure is very funny because fear of failure, it's controlled by kind of I don't want to say a lack of knowledge, but just a lack of creativity in a way. So vision actually connects to creativity. And when we say vision, it is the idea of where could Bitcoin go. So like, for example, my screen shares on, you can see my screen. Yeah.
Oh, yep.
So vision is, I'm just going to find a level here, hourly origin. Yeah, sure. The levels are irrelevant right now. I'm just going to mark out something here just to mark it out. So yeah, hourly origin. Vision is that if it hits this target, where could it possibly go? Well, it could go here, right? And then we look for origins on the bottom side. You got this right here. You got hourly here. And again, really the accuracy of this chart is not important right now. We'll mark the 4 hour because it can be a little more accurate and we're already here. Then we can say, well, it could go here, right? Like you've hit an hourly break. It can go to the +1 on this chart. So we're using a little bit of technical analysis here, some advanced TA. So we're using a +1 theorem. So a 1 hour break level or origin that hits on the top side is supposed to break the top of the chart. And if it goes down to this 4 hour break, well, we've just +1'd our expectation, which means we're likely breaking down. So then we can sit here and even just looking at these two levels, we can say, okay, well, if it bounces off this level here, so if it hits this origin here, bounces off that, we kind of understand that, hey, the move is holding up. We're starting to ladder. We've created kind of this trend here, and then we'd have like a more interior trend on a different time frame that may look like that. And then we can say, okay, well, next it's probably going to attack that again. So we understand that from you remove all these expectations. We understand that from this moment on, we can hit this, and that's what's going to happen. If we hit this 4 hour break level here, which is now an origin, we're sitting here saying, oh, an hourly +1 to that, because the +1 to the hourly would be the 4 hour, meaning that it's trying to break the move. And then maybe it ladders off of this piece here. So it goes down here, hits this, and now we understand that our targets are down here because we're actually just going to be falling quite a bit, right? So vision, when you say vision to somebody, vision is the creative outcomes that someone can see on a chart. So vision is very different than what people think. People say you lack vision, and this is correct if people mean it in the context of, oh, I want to own a $5 million house and all these Ferraris and Porsches and all this stuff. Right? That's great. Those are different types of, those are goals, right? But vision, when we talk about vision and mental analysis, it's the ability to create all the, or maybe not even create, but understand and see all the different creative outcomes, all the different things that can happen. So fear of failure is due to a lack of vision. And what vision means is you don't have the ability to understand all the different creative outcomes. So we could sit here and we could mark up this chart and say, okay, here's the hourly here, and this is the bounce level, and here's the origin, and then we're gonna have a trend here. So maybe we can go down to this trend, and then we have what is this, like a little reverse level there, which means this one would be next. So we need to, oopsies, we need to mark that one again. So let's mark this one. And then we're just going almost like over the top 20 different outcomes that could happen. And this is what conquers fear of failure, is vision. Because if you have the creative vision to see all the different outcomes on a chart, there should be no fear of failure because there's nothing that you haven't already described on the chart. And that's going to happen. And at this point, it's just about seeing which one does get hit. So if you have, one out, one outcome, two, three, four, five, and another one we drew is that trend six, ladder off, whatever. You've got a trend on the side up here like that, come down here, seven. The more you add to your chart, the less fear of failure you will have, because you are creating that vision, right? You're creating that vision for yourself. So when we say vision, it's about understanding all of the different outcomes. Because think about it for a second. If you could draw every single outcome on this chart properly, where would you fear failure? Because now it's just a question of logic. Because if you know, for example, let's just get this back here. If you know that you just hit the break level, which means the chart is going to try and break up, and you know that this would be +1. So this is kind of the event that happened, and this is the event that makes the chart go down. You know that if you hit this level and bounce off of it, you're likely going to attack this origin and break it again. So in theory, if you were in a short right here on this wick and you came back down to here, there should be no fear of failure, because you understand that this will now bounce the trade and you're going to go right back to here. So there's no, where should I get out? When should I cut my losses? When should I take my profits? It kills fear of failure because it fills in all the blanks. Does that make sense?
Yeah, this is actually really helpful because little like early before Raiders and early into Raiders, I used to be such a big advocate of thinking about every single possibility of outcome on the chart, depending
Yep.
on, if X happens or whatever. But
And you probably
I
didn't
don't
have
think
as
I
much. You probably
sorry.
didn't have as much fear of failure then either.
Yeah, I think yeah, back then I was now that I look back on it, I was, doing very well in trading, but like I guess this gives me more insight on how to utilize it more because I don't because I did it, but I wasn't utilizing it as much.
Yeah, and then it takes all that guesswork out, right? Like it
Mhm.
takes out all of that. Because I think what's going to happen is, and this is very common for a lot of traders, I think what's going to happen is you're going to enter a trade. Say you just entered this short perfectly, and you're going to be saying to yourself, "Let's see where this can go." Right? Like I think this is
Mhm.
so atypical of traders, where we just enter a
Yeah.
trade and it's like, oh, it could go down to here. Let's see. Oh, it could go down to that level. Let's see. And then you end up washing all your profits. Like even right now in this trade, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, and again, we're not doing this for technical accuracy, but just even right now, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, here is a trend. We haven't broken it yet. Is there a higher time frame trend that we can mark? No, not really. We've got something like this. I guess we should color code these properly. But even right now, I would be in this and I would say, okay, well, we're clearly not hitting trend. There's no real trend. Like this is way too sharp. It's not gonna. We're never gonna use that. But we do have this hourly trend, and we still haven't really lost it. But it looks like we might lose it. So if we could create this as a whole level, this would be a good short to stay in. So we got 55 minutes. Actually, we're pretty far from that. So I don't even think we look at creating this as a whole level, because if we're 55 minutes away, we just kind of X that right away. What we do instead is we say,
Mhm.
have we lost this on any 15-minute chart? So is this cycling down? Let's zoom in. Boy, that's close.
That is really close.
Technically not a hard close, so we actually don't adapt our chart. So now what I would be doing is I would be saying, okay, well, this is trying to hold the move on a 15. So how would we -1 this time frame, right? So then I would say, okay, let's start creating 5-minute hold levels on that side of the trend. So right here, So if we gain this here, let's mark this as a 15. Let's mark these properly. Come on, mark this properly here. Mark this here as the hourly. So now I at least can say this will start decycling this move down, because it looks like we're holding the 15. We've got the hourly. This is the -1 to that. So this is what has to hold. And this is what can't get created right here, right? So like if you are in this short and you don't start gaining this level right here, if you don't start gaining that level, I would simply just exit the short, because we're likely just going back up. But then this should pretty much take out all of the this should take out any kind of questions you have about this trade. Like you're going to gain this, and you're just simply going to move down to your target, right? So if you were in the short, you now should have no fear of failure, because the vision is already clear. You've already creatively put out all your levels and everything that you do, because it's so atypical for a trader to just enter here and just say, let's see where it goes. And they're just kind of riding this trade without any of these creative outcomes, right? and they're just
Yeah.
sitting here like, oh, okay, let's just ride the wave. And then they pick a spot to exit because it hits a percentage, not because it hits a target. Like that's a big definition right there too. Like traders will say, I've entered here, I need to make minimum 1% or 1.2%. So let's say like if you're here, let's measure where 1.2% would be. So they're here, they say I want to make a minimum of 1.2%. So they're here right now. They're like, okay, good. Now let me set my stop loss, um, right here. This would be the incorrect way to do it, because they're just kind of atypically hoping and praying for this to just kind of go in their direction without any real plan. Right now, you shouldn't be setting a stop loss on this. You should be seeing if you can gain this level to go down to target here, right? And then if you hit this target, you should say, oh, if we are bouncing this target, we definitely need to look for an exit spot, right? So that's so atypical of traders to just enter a trade and just sit there and wait to see what happens. But again, we make it pretty simple on this chart right now by describing these outcomes, and there should be no fear of failure because this is like kind of very straightforward in my opinion.
Yeah. I I gotta agree. That is a very atypical. Both of those are very typical new trader moves, and
Yep.
I'm very guilty of it too. It's uh, I know what I know it's I know it in my head, but sometimes it's just also I used to be a big uh, what is it, fundamental guy. That's
Yeah.
how I started my whole the market thing. I
Yeah.
think it's still somewhere inside of me. I just kind of need to wash it out.
Well, I mean, fundamentals are fine, and there is
No, but
like
oh,
you'd be surprised to hear me say this. Like I don't like one to one disagree with fundamentals, but I think fundamentals are more of an investor's mindset, right? Like
yeah,
if you believe in something, you invest in it. But if you're investing, you're not sitting here every day. You pick a price. Like I would say, Bitcoin's going to reach $5,000, and I'm going to buy it because I think Bitcoin has a good future. And then you just sit on it. You're not charting it every day. You're not like it's very different. You may be a business owner of hot dog food trucks. I don't know, whatever your thing is, right? And then you're like, oh, Bitcoin looks like a good investment, and you may be right based on fundamentals, but that doesn't equate to the same thing as what we are as day traders, where our income comes from sitting in front of the charts every day. So like I don't necessarily disagree with that. And I even have some things that I buy that I say, well, this is a good project for the future. So, when the price goes low enough, I will buy it. But I'm not charting those things. I'm just holding them, and whatever happens, happens, right? So yeah,
yeah, but
I think that's fundamentals have a place, but it's just not with trading, which is
yeah,
fair because we just trade every day, and yeah, like that's just what we do. We're day traders, and then like a lot of times you see people focusing on here's a really bad queue of events that people enter or a really bad mindset that they enter. They start focusing on profits, like what I just did, and I said, okay, we need to take this
mhm,
trade from here to here to make 1.2% on the day. That starts to build a repertoire in your mind that you're always chasing profits. So you quickly forget to start doing things like Pandora's box, mirroring. By chasing percentages, you're kind of shortcutting out 40% of the work. It's almost like you're saying I'm half of a trader by chasing percentages. So I do understand why people want to have a certain percentage because they associate it with an income goal and they associate it with progression. But by saying I need to make 1.2%, like, okay, fine. I might as well just go do this. I might as well just go delete the whole bottom of my chart and it doesn't matter because I'm getting into a cycle where I just look for good trades and I take them. And as long as I make my 1.2%, I'm out. Right. So then
mhm,
the cycle restarts. So if this trade was just completed in my mind and that's good. I might as well just go and do this. I might as well just go and do this. Just because I have to restart that whole queue from zero. At that point, I might as well just do this. And then it's exhausting to kind of go and have to refigure out the next move. And then you blame yourself because you're like, oh, I should have stayed in the trade. Now where do I get to next? And then you make a mistake because you're going to say, well, this thing is still dumping. I should get in right here. And then you got in right there. And then maybe you start gaining a level. And now you're in negative profits. So now 1.2% plus profits turns into 0.6 because you just lost one position because you just didn't really create those outcomes. And all of a sudden it's like having to start from zero every single time. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah. I'm definitely guilty of that. I used
Yeah.
to try to set like a fiat goal for a day, and I was just exiting trades, and that was not like I mean, on a positive note, I was making money, but like it just I definitely get like starting fresh.
right?
Just felt like every time I took a trade and it was like, okay, well, I need to make, I don't know, let's just say $300 today.
Yeah.
This $300, I'll take it, and then I would try to take another trade, and it's just like it was like drawing blanks, 100%. I had
If
no
you,
clue.
yeah, no, I completely get that. If you want to become a better day trader, there is a very simple formula in terms of mental analysis that you need to use. And it's kind of like this. Um, the more you focus on percentages, the more money you're going to lose, which
Mm,
sounds a little counterintuitive, but let me explain. If you have 1.2% that you want to make from here to here, I would rather see a trader say that 1.2%, instead of taking profits there, right here. I would rather see that trader lose those profits and go to something that doesn't, like, if you hit this level, it's not going to make sense to say, well, Cotton, why would I take half the profits? Like, I'm a big advocate for locking up profits, and that's fine. But if you find yourself always hitting these profit marks, you're never going to become a better trader, because again, you're taking out all of that extra work you need to do. Imagine a trader who always takes 1.2%. Like, that trader has plateaued, because the only thing they ever do on a chart is they look for open positions and then they take their profits at like 1.2%, and that's it. They've completely bypassed or foregone all of the technical analysis that we do, where you say, okay, well, this is clearly laddering right here, right? You clearly have a ladder right here. Your next ladder would be the backside here, which is just, if you actually ladder the backside, you're just going to move down in the trade. If you hit the front side, maybe you're going to keep creating a ladder, and now you have to go after something like an interior range trend like this. And now you have to actually break this interior range trend, right? So you're shortcutting out all of the ability to grow as a trader, because all you're doing is saying, well, the other half of the charts don't matter. I'm just looking at 1.2%. Like, if I was to evolve as a trader, or if I was giving someone advice on how you get better as a trader, I would rather see somebody forfeit those profits with an open mind that, hey, we can hit this and we'll move down, and this is your next target down here, or whatever the next target is. By constantly taking a certain profit lockup, like, you're never going to evolve, because you're going to be using the same formula, you're going to be using the same strategy, you're going to be using the same exact queue of events that's going to get you that 1.2% profit. You see what I
yeah,
mean? Like, you're
yeah,
almost rinse repeating a pattern at that point, instead of understanding why the charts are moving where they're moving. Like, you're in one scenario, you take your trade here, you've exited here, 1.2%. There's no learning to be had here. The only thing you did was you said, okay, like, look, here's a break level right here. Let's just delete this one here so we can see that. There's a break level right here. I think it's a really good spot to take my trade, and I can make 1.2% off it. There's not a lot of evolution that happens there. You picked a good target, which is great. That means you're good at entries. You understand what's happening on the chart. And then you simply just, like, that was the entire process of your logical mind. You took your position and you're just using a few queue of events to take a 1.2% profit, right? The other scenario is a trader stays in this trade and starts to understand, okay, can ladder here. Like, look, you lost that. Measure this here. Um, you went down after hitting that trade. You went down all the way to 1.3%. And you actually forfeited most of those profits, because if you came back to here, you would have been at only 30% profits. And now you'd be sitting somewhere between, right? So there's kind of like a nice blend that you can have, where you take both the 1.2% profit, but also take the next trade on top of it, right? But I find a lot of traders, they don't do that. What they do is they just focus on that number, that magical percentage that they want to get. And instead of looking at all the possible outcomes like we did earlier in the trade, they just lock up their 1.2%, and there's no evolution as a trader in that. And it's fine to lock up that 1.2% as long as you're saying, I do think this is going down and I need to take re-entry, right? I don't think there's any evolution for a trader when they say, I'm just going to take X amount of profits, right? Like,
yeah.
there's no
That's
evolution
really
there.
really insightful. You're just creating, like, in a sense, almost a static way to trade, so you're never gonna evolve, and then eventually, your static, like, quote unquote, rules are just not gonna go your way, and then you're just gonna it's
Oh
gonna go
yeah, you're
down eventually.
You're just not bettering yourself as a trader. If you were trading with $1 just out of principle, for learning purposes, if you were to take a $1 trade, obviously $1, it doesn't matter. Whatever happens to that trade, it's irrelevant. If you were to take a $1 trade, sorry, 1 second, Impo.
Oh, that's fine.
Had to sneeze, but it's like yeah, it's not happening. If you were to take a $1 trade here and you were to just say $1, I turned it into $2. How much are you learning from that?
Yeah.
Like, cool, I made $1 next, right? Like, you're not learning anything from that. If you were in that $1 trade and all of a sudden you are sitting here and you're like, okay, I got my $1, and you're sitting here saying, okay, what's my target? I want to break this trend. Okay, cool. Oh, nice, we're attacking trend. Like, you would, at this point, you would have anyways already been out of the trade. But now the logical process continues. You're saying, oh, okay, actually we hit trend, we bounce trend. That's kind of perfect because this is our range trend. So our range is holding. All right, so we got a range on the bottom, origin on the top, hold level. If we ladder the hold level, then I think we might break the bottom of our range. So the first thing would be to be ladder the next hold level to see if it actually can hit this hold level and ladder. It ladders it. Now the next thing to be would be to go back and attack that range trend. So now you're sitting here saying, okay, we're laddering down. We're still against range trend. We're kind of in between 2 points here. What's next? Okay, we're trying to break range trend. At this point, one of two things can happen. If I hit this hold level, it's just kind of a laddering over and over. So eventually, if this hold level continues to hold, this ladder will break on this side because this one refuses to break. And if I hit this backside, it's likely going to attack this hold level to break that hold level. Because if we can't even hit the front side, then it's probably going to just break this level. The backside's going to bounce its final entry before a big dump, right? And then so now we're hitting that backside level. So there's actually a logical thought process there. And now we actually have a level developed underneath our trend. So like, let's see what happens now. Maybe we make this as a backside. So now even in my mind, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, if we actually just sit here for the next 11 minutes, we've created a trail of backsides now. So backside this is the first one. This will be the second one that holds it down. So when we bounce this hourly, if we hit this backside, right? Where's that hourly target? If we bounce this hourly right here, turn this blue so we don't mess ourselves up. If we bounce this hourly and then come back and hit this, back to the 15-minute chart here. If we bounce this backside, go to this hourly, and then bounce this backside, we're probably going to the 4. And then if we create a -1 time frame to that, like a big hourly somewhere, like maybe this ends up being like a big hourly backside, or something like that, then we know that we're losing the 4-hour on the bottom. So the outcome is very different. In the scenario where a trader says, I need to make 1.2%, that's all they do. So imagine doing this with $1 for 6 months straight, and how much of a better trader you would be in take the two scenarios and put them against each other. Scenario one, for the next 6 months, all you do is you look at taking trades, getting an exit for 1.2%, and rinse repeat, right? Like, you do that for 6 months straight with $1. Yeah, you'll probably become a better scalp trader, but how big is your evolution? Now, on the other side of it, hold every position you have and then start doing all the logic flow to every single trade. Do that for 6 months straight with $1. And how much better do you think you'd be? Because in one scenario, you're completing the entire picture of a trader, right? You're practicing all of your tools versus just rinse repeating the same one over and over. It almost becomes like this mundane strategy, right? And then with that, you start losing money too, because your positions are always only, oh, I gain 1.2% or I lose 0.6. So you really only have a variable outcome of 1.2% or 0.6 or lose 0.6. So it's a very static linear system, right? It's like, oh, I lose either 0.5% or I gain 1%. And there's nothing else in between. So you're not even, like, at that point, you're just basically trading a system,
Just the bottom.
which is extremely mind numbing. So, we go back to fear of failure and vision, and you can see how vision can kind of overcome that fear of failure if you are creative. And this is how you train it. You just kind of hold positions and then start doing your logic flow constantly, all the time.
Yeah, I I think I've been focusing too much energy on entries that I've kind of lost touch with what what I used to not be good at, I should say, but like used to do was just really try to focus more on logic flow and honing my skills. I might just I might just do the whole dollar thing for a while. That is so true. It's just like because I'm guilty of that too, where I would just say like I would just look for spots with where I could be allowed a 40% stop,
Yeah.
and then I would say like I don't know, risk to reward 2 to 1. I take 80, or I don't know, I go for like a fiat amount, and then I would just take those trades. I
Yep.
am very guilty of that.
Yep. Well, I mean, if you were a professional athlete and you were practicing for, the big game in off season, it's not like you're risking it all, right? Like that's a good way to
Hmm.
think of it about it. Any professional who's doing that, they have their practice time. We're very much the same thing. So $1 trades, not that I'm advocating that you should do $1 trades, but if you were to think of it in that context, your $1 trade would be your training time. So if you did that for 6 months, you would be the next LeBron James. And then those guys, they train. That's all they do. They play basketball for a
Hmm.
few months in the championships, and then they train all year long, all year training, train. They eat, breathe, and sleep training, right? They get up at 6 a.m. every day and they train and they train and they train. And your $1 trades is your training. Like you wouldn't be drafted into the NBA and just say, oh, I got drafted. There's my ticket.
Yeah.
Let me just go right into to open season. I haven't practiced at all. Just let me fuck it, dude. I'm just right in open season. The same as if you were a trader and you're putting your money on the line, would you just go and start trading? Right? Like you can do that. Sure, that works on street courts when you're just playing basketball against other people. But if you wanted to become a professional NBA player, you'd be in that gym every single day, train. And then when it's time to actually play an important game, college ball or your first game in the NBA or whatever that important game may be, you've trained for the last 6, 7, 8 months. So you're going to be better than everybody else. That's the same thing with our $1 scenario here. Like if you've trained for that long, $1 trades, like when you step into it, you're like, God, I've seen this situation a million times. I know exactly what to do. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
a very, very different way to look at it. An NBA player wouldn't just jump on the court without practicing for, and then even if they did practice, they're still everybody's going to be better than them. Just like all the other traders are still going to be better than you anyways, even if you practice. Until you've practiced so much that it's like, how could anybody be better than me? My muscles can't get any faster. I can't be any better at shooting. I've learned all my situations. I know how to pivot and shoot. I know how to pass a ball. Like you've trained so much that you're just better than everybody else because you have that edge on them. So like it's the same thing, right? And by just taking these short trades, these I made 1.2% trades, you're just shortcutting the entire thing because at that point you might as well just like if this is one analysis that we did, again, just reiterating this, you might as well just go like this and like does it really matter what is happening on the bottom side of the chart if your goal is 1.2%? No. So like what are you really learning? Right? Like it's not like you're
Yeah.
flexing your mind. It's not like you're sitting here seeing the same situation 1,000 times over. It's not like you're getting the opportunity to play this. Oh, I just bought a break level. I know what happens. I've bought this break level 1,000 times. Here's what could happen. You don't get the opportunity to expose yourself to that. You're just sitting there fulfilling a system, right? So I think that's a big one. And in terms of fear of failure too, there shouldn't like fear of failure shouldn't really exist because you should be extrapolating the knowledge to understand the outcomes, which should be building up your internal journal or your internal trading Bible or book or whatever you want to call it. Like it should just be building your tools. Losing a trade is less important than getting the exposure of what could happen and understanding the outcomes.
Yeah. That. Sorry, I'm a little quiet. I'm just trying to like process everything.
No, you're good.
So
You're good, man. That kind of makes sense though. Like you want that exposure. You want to be in failing trades, but you want to understand the situation. You want to buy an origin level against a range trend, and you want to be in this forfeiting profits like dozens, hundreds, thousands of times, so that one day after you've practiced this for 6, 7 months, and you're saying like, I am a professional. I've gotten drafted into the NBA for Christ's sakes, but I need to practice to make sure that when game time comes, I know exactly what to do and I am going to win, right? That's your same thing here. Like it's your
mhm.
training. You want to get into hundreds of scenarios where you buy an origin level. Who cares about the profits? Who cares? Like the profits don't matter when we're talking about mental analysis. The profits matter when your life depends on it. But you shouldn't be trading money outside of what's comfortable and saying like, oh, my life depends on this winning trade. Like that's not healthy either, right?
Yeah. I might. I think what I might do is do like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. just kind of or some whatever it is set like training days on purpose.
Yeah.
Actually, that might actually be a very good system.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you're practicing your free throw and your 3 pointer and your alley oops. Like that's all you're doing is you're just practicing at that point, right? Which is good because practice makes you better.
Oh yeah, I one thing I've noticed very much as a trader is you really gotta feel it to understand it. And I don't like to use the word feel, especially like within the world of the science. But the truth is, when you're working with like money, just feelings get to you a lot more easily. Just like emotional stuff, and you
Yep.
just you gotta be in the trades to really to understand it and honestly fail. I agree with that. You gotta. I always say there's an entrance fee in trading that every single person pays.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually,
Yep. Oh no, it's true. Absolutely.
it's like a weird, just Korean thing. People say trading is like going to school,
Yeah.
and it's a difference of whether you graduate or you get expelled.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.